Okay, champs, welcome back to Libertas Trading and welcome to the week ahead preview for Monday, the 10th of November until Friday, the 14th. So, the plan for today's video, I'm basically going to do a short little, there's not much going on next week, so we'll do a short little preview for next week's data and then we'll go back to last week's data. We'll look at some of the reactions, we'll try and learn, how markets reacted to certain prints. That's going to help us understand how markets will react in the future, which is where we make our money from. So we'll go through that. If you like the content, give us a like, give us a restack. If there's anything you want us to improve on, send me a message in the chat. Anything you want me to include, anything you want me to change. If you just enjoyed it and you find this useful, give me a message. It's always good to know how you guys are finding it. So just heading on to this week's data. So for Mondays, it's a nothing day today, which is why I'm doing the video today. If we've got stuff on Monday, I'll always do it on the Sunday, but with nothing going on today, I've just left it a day later. So on Tuesday, we've got UK jobs, which could be really interesting. We've currently got I have to work this out now, about 11 or 12, about 15 basis points of cuts priced in, which is a 60% chance of a cut for the next meeting for the Bank of England. So basically, if we get a massive beat, that could reduce that to sort of a below 50% chance. Or if we get a really bad miss, that could price more of a cut in. We've also got about 55 basis points of cuts priced in for the rest of next year. So I think, especially on a dovish print, there's a lot more room for that to go. So, because of stagflation concerns, because of everything going on with the budget at the moment and the UK economy and how bad it's been, I would rather trade a miss for a medium term trade, but I would be open to trading a beat if we get good enough numbers. So just head into last month's print to see how we reacted. So this is the euro pound, and it wasn't the worst print of all time. Like, wages came in a bit higher, which could also contribute to stagflationary fears, which we'll talk about for tomorrow's preview. But also we had the payrolls change coming lower. We've had this private payrolls, which is all of a sudden really important for markets now. So markets really focus on this number. That came in a lot lower. As you can see here, the UK pay growth is slowing faster than expected. So usually the private sector comes before the public sector. So you can see here we moved up in the private, then we moved up about 6 months later in the public, and then when we started coming down, the markets are expecting public sector pay to come down. So that was a really important number last week. We had payrolls coming in lower again. Employment change came in lower. So it was quite a nice print for a trade. We got a really nice fill, and this is the 1 minute chart, and you can see here how nice of a move that was. So you wouldn't have had to risk much money here to make massive profits. So yeah, really looking forward to this one tomorrow. So back to the calendar, that's basically it for Tuesday. There's not really much else going on. We've got some final inflation prints from Germany, not expecting that to be market moving. We've got some Fed speak, which could be interesting. I won't be doing previews for, but that could be interesting to see their sentiment after the FOMC 10 days ago, whenever it was. And then what else have we got? Here we go. So we've got Aussie jobs, which a favorite one of mine. I love trading Aussie jobs. It's a really volatile data set, so we do get some huge reactions. Last month wasn't the best print. If we quickly have a look at that one. So yeah, last month's wasn't the best. Unemployment rate came in higher, which we'll be looking at for this month. If that comes in higher again, that's going to be really worrying for the RBA. That full-time employment, of course, is really important. But we still had an okay move. You could have scalped a little bit out of this. It wasn't anything I traded, but we do get some really good moves off the Aussie jobs. So I'll probably be keeping it short term, but we will talk more about that in the preview, which I'll put up probably Wednesday afternoon at some time. So really looking forward to trading this one. And then we've also got Thursday morning, 7 o'clock. So early start again. We've got UK quarterly GDP, which again, for all the same reasons as the UK jobs data, we've got a good amount of basis points of cuts priced in, which means it can go either way in terms of impacts. Last quarter's print was really interesting, so we'll quickly look at that now. So this was the last quarterly print we had, which was also the last tradable print. The monthly prints haven't been too good the last 2 months. But this one came in in August, came in really hot. There was a few things that came in lower, but nothing special. And we saw a bit of a strange reaction. We saw a bit of a retracement, but then at sort of 7:30 time, which is when you expect, price fell pretty strong. So this is another one, same with the UK jobs, something I'll be looking at holding maybe medium term if we get a chance. And yeah, if we get the right numbers, could be in for a really nice play here. And then just heading back to the calendar, that's all I'll be interested in, but we'll just have a look at what else we've got. So we've got CPI, which we probably won't, we 99% won't be getting. If we do get any changes, I'll let you know. Again, claims won't be getting due to the government shutdown, which should be getting sorted out this week, hopefully at some point. But just based on past shutdowns, it usually takes about 7 days until we start getting data again. So, we may expect some CPI and NFP next week. I'm not really sure how it's going to work, but I'll just keep you updated on that one. We've got some data from China. So this could be quite interesting for trading the Aussie. I won't be trading it personally, but we haven't seen many sort of large reactions in the Aussie dollar out of Chinese data recently. So I'll be giving this one a swerve, but something to keep a watch on. If we do see some big moves out of the data, always good to watch for next month. And then we've got some final inflation data from Europe, which won't be important. We've got employment change and GDP from Europe at 10 o'clock on Friday morning, which I know this one's, this is the second preliminary data, so second estimates, which won't be that market moving. And then the employment change here is, so yeah, this is preliminary data. I mean, employment change rarely moves the euro, so nothing I'll be interested in either on that one. And then going into Friday, yeah, nothing else either. So, nothing really special there. So just looking at last week's moves to see how markets reacted. So Monday, Swiss CPI, really nice move out of this one. So as we spoke about in the week ahead preview, we were looking for a minus 0.2 miss on this one, which is what we got, perfect. Minus 0.3 on the monthly and then 0.1 on the yearly, which was moving further away from the SMB's forecast for Q4, which is, really positive. Quickly looking at that reaction. As forecasted, it wasn't a huge move. We didn't see price move on for ages, but it was a fairly good move. We had that big retracement. We spoke about waiting for a fill. So just showing you my trade on this one. As I said, I did keep risk a bit lower on this one due to past reactions. But I personally got into this one. So I waited for a pullback. We saw this massive spike lower at 10 seconds, which made me wait a bit longer. I then see price, sort of bottom out for about 30 seconds. And then we started moving higher. And as we moved higher, I got in around about here. I think it was about 85 seconds after the release I got in. Price moved higher. I was a few pips away from my target. Came lower again, which is where I got out. I actually got out here. I thought I'm at break even. Price isn't moving very well. The Swiss franc hasn't traded well from this data recently, so I'll get out at break even. And then, of course, as soon as I got out, price moved higher, which is sod's law. And I would have reached my profit target, I think, about 92, 91. So yeah, I was pretty close here, but a few pips away. So yeah, that was a bit of a disappointing one, but better safe than sorry. I had a fair amount risked on this one, so I didn't want to, due to past reactions. One thing you can do here, which is probably what I should have done, is if markets do start turning, but you still believe there's a reason for it to move higher, maybe you've risked a bit more than you would have liked, maybe the fill wasn't as good as you expected, you can take half off the table at break even and leave half on the table to run. That's quite a nice little thing to do when you're not so sure about where the markets are going. And then just zooming out to the 5-minute chart on the Euro Swiss franc, we did move higher in the day on the pair. I think this was more risk related than anything else, but it was quite a nice move anyway. So that'll be something to look forward to next month. Then just going back to the calendar, we had ISM manufacturing on Monday afternoon as well. So it was a bit of a mixed print and nothing tradable. So we had the prices coming lower. We had the headline PMI come in just a little bit lower, but nothing worth a trade. We had new orders come in higher, and then we had the all-important employment figure, which came in a little bit higher. So really mixed numbers here and nothing that was worth trading or looking at now. RBA, nothing burger as expected. Just heading down to New Zealand employment change. Bit of a disappointing week, actually. So again, this basically came in completely in line here. Nothing special on the employment change. We had these PMIs weren't worth anything. They were just revisions. ADP, which came in a little bit hotter, but nothing that was worth a trade. If you remember from the preview, we were looking for really big numbers here. So we had this one, which is worth looking at, ISM services. So I'll quickly head over to the charts on that one. So just looking at the price action on this one, if you remember from the preview from last week, we were looking at getting in between the first 5 and 10 seconds. So actually, if you got very lucky and got filled around this number, sort of 154.13, what did we have? We had a 17 pip target on US dollar yen. So you would have actually made your profits after about a minute on this one, but it wasn't anything I traded. And the reason was, if you remember, we were looking for a print of 50 or above on the employment. So I think if this employment figure came in at 50, this would have been a really nice move. But just looking, yeah, we may have made money on in the short term if we got a really nice fill, but it was definitely nothing special. And just heading over to the 1 minute chart, you can see here price pushed up for about 2 or 3, 4 minutes, and then we reversed, pushed up a little bit higher, but nothing special, and then completely reversed again. So yeah, definitely nothing worth a trade. And this is why we keep an eye on the trade plans, and we stay strict on this, because we got the manufacturing at 52.4, which is what we're looking for, but that employment figure at 48.2 was just too low for a trade. So if any of you scalped out of this one, fair play. That was it was a nice little scalp, but yeah, nothing I traded personally. I was really waiting for this employment number to come in above 50. So heading into Thursday, we had the Bank of England, which was a bit of a nothing burger. We had 4 votes for a cut, which was more dovish than expected, but we didn't really get any amazing moves out of that one, which is why I didn't do a preview for it. And then heading into Friday, we had Canadian jobs. So this is a really interesting one now. So we'll go to the Canadian jobs reaction. So again, this print and this reaction really shows the importance of waiting for all the numbers to line up and for following the trade scenario plan. So hourly wages come in really hot, employment change came in hot, and the unemployment rate came in very hot as well, 6.9, so below the minimum, which is really good. The participation rate came in hot as well, but look at that full-time employment. Basically what this print is saying is that all of these jobs gained, or all of them and more, came from part-time employment, and actually the full-time employment for the month went down. So yeah, we got a nice reaction purely because of the unemployment rate, but this was a completely mixed print. Although you can see a sea of green, and if you're watching this, if you got your adrenaline high and you're waiting for a massive print or a massive miss, you see this sea of green, you see these 2 golden lightning strikes, and you think, amazing, let's get involved. But actually, this is why it's important to take 5 seconds, take a step back, and just look at the data as a whole. And that full-time employment made this not tradable. So although we did get we did pull back and move down again, it was a dreadful reaction. You're getting 95.25. You're getting like a 25 pip fill here to sort of make 10 pips. So yes, it's no good at all. And then yeah, just zooming out to the 1 minute chart. Again, we did speak about this pair usually peaking after 3 or 4 minutes, which it did exactly. It peaked after 4 minutes, or it fell its most after 4 minutes to completely reverse. Within about an hour and a half, we had completely reversed on this. So it just shows how important it is to wait for the data to make sure everything comes in. 5-star trades only. When we're risking large amounts of money, we want to make sure that all the stars align. So yeah, just well worth noting on this one for next month. We're really focusing on that full-time employment and the unemployment rate, both to come in the same. So that's the week ahead preview and the week prior roundup. Any questions, give me a shout. And again, if you want to give us a like, give us a restack, that'll be amazing. And yeah, any opinions, any feedback, just message me in the chat.